today on Classroom Dynamics.
I think there's many layers to it, but whenever we're walking into a school, it's always what's going to be the highest leverage, right? So immediately you're trying to see, what's the actual overall environment? What is the ratio of student to teacher talk? What are, how are the hallways? How are adults communicating with one another? How are they communicating with themselves? And then you tiptoe into the classroom, and then you really get into the meat and potatoes.
Welcome to the place where ideas collide. Adam Todd's here to be your guide. For teachers and techies, chasing the spark. Classroom dynamics, where we leave our mark. Let's dive in deep, the future's bright. Innovation shines like morning light. Teachers and tech, hand in hand we go. Welcome to the Classroom Dynamics Show.
Classroom Dynamics is sponsored in part by Logitech Education, empowering student voice and creativity with innovative tools like the Logitech Reach Adjustable Content Camera and the Zone Learn headset designed specifically for student comfort and focus. Discover how Logitech is transforming classrooms at logitech.com/education. Welcome to Classroom Dynamics, the podcast where we unlock the future of education. Hi everybody, I'm your host Adam Todd, and on today's show, we're spotlighting Catapult Learning, not only a sponsor of Classroom Dynamics, but also a trusted education partner for over 50 years. Known for high-impact tutoring, targeted math and literacy intervention, and professional development that truly moves the needle, their nationally recognized programs are Every Student Succeeds Act Level 2 validated and proven to accelerate growth for students who need it most. Here in New York City, Catapult's local team provides coaching, leadership development, and customized support that strengthens instruction across all 5 boroughs. And joining us today are Regina Yeager, Ali Rogers, Lanisha Pugh, Chester Ocampo, and BB Morrissey. They're here to share how Catapult Learning is helping teachers and students thrive. And it's all coming up next on Classroom Dynamics, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Classroom Dynamics is brought to you in part by Higher Ground Gear and the Vaulted Cell Phone Pouch, the smarter, faster way to create phone-free classrooms. Built with military-grade construction, RF shielding, and a high-decibel Velcro closure that stops distractions before they start, Vaulted keeps learning focused and secure. No locks, no end-of-the-day bottlenecks, just durable, easy-to-clean protection that gives students what they need most: attention, connection, and calm. Upgrade your school's approach to distraction-free learning with Vaulted at Higher Ground Gear. For more information, visit hggear.com today or contact us at info@hggear.com.
Behind every successful student is a teacher who feels supported. At Catapult Learning, we partner with educators through coaching, collaborative professional development, and classroom-proven tools. Our programs aren't just theory. They're actionable, relevant, and built to make your daily work easier and more effective. With 45 years of evidence-based success, Catapult provides the guidance and resources that help educators grow so students thrive. Catapult Learning, empowering teachers, inspiring futures. Learn more at catapultlearning.com.
Regina Yeager, Ali Rogers, Lanisha Pugh, Chester Ocampo, and BB Morrissey are here from Catapult Learning to talk about Catapult's mission and the impact that they're having in schools to support educators and accelerate learning across New York City and even beyond. Welcome to Classroom Dynamics, everyone. This is going to be a really great, important conversation that I think teachers are really going to latch onto. So welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So Chester, let's start with you. Let's talk about just the basics here. What is Catapult Learning's straight mission, and how can schools be helped?
From the nuts and bolts of it, we partner with school districts to accelerate achievement by strengthening instructional capacity. And that could be directly supporting students in the classroom, professionally developing teachers on their pedagogy, or working with district leaders, school leaders to make sure that the infrastructure to make academic and learning possible is maximized and utilizing resources in the best possible way.
So when you're going into schools, you're looking almost at the places where they're not really pulling their weight 100%, where they could do a lot better.
Almost like helping them look at their school in a different way. Because sometimes they have all the pieces there and it's just kind of rearranging the rest. And it's tweaking a classroom here. It's supporting a couple of teachers in certain areas. And we found that like schools have what it takes. right? It's sometimes it just takes that third perspective, because sometimes if you're in it so long that, when someone comes in with a fresh set of eyes, fresh set of ears, they just give a suggestion and it sounds like there's this magical like wisdom that comes out, but it's almost like the Wizard of Oz, like when the Glinda says, like, it was with you all along, Dorothy, in the spirit of, Wicked, the second movie coming out. But the magic is in the school, and sometimes we're the ones who are lucky to be there because we get to see things with a fresh set of eyes, as I said, and seeing the look on school leaders' faces. We're like, oh, that's it. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Now go forth and continue. It's really fun.
You make a really good point. I've seen a lot of teachers in plenty of PDs over the years. I've been teaching for 26 years. And how many times I've been in a PD where someone is from the outside who is not in it like you are. And they give them that little tidbit, that little something that they never thought about before, just an angle, like you were saying, a different angle. And they take it and they're so eager to try it because they're all of a sudden seeing the possibilities of change and positive results as a result of that.
I also think the level of trust is so important when you're working with adult learners. And a lot of times they're getting thrown so many things. Their J's are super stressful. And if they feel seen and feel supported and feel respected, and they're so much more willing to be open to the advice and the feedback that you're able to give them. And when they see it working, they're like, oh, wait, give me more of that. Like that's working. I want more, because sometimes maybe they've come to the end of their rope of not knowing what else to do to make improvements in their pedagogy.
That's well said. I couldn't have said it any better, because I think you're absolutely right. When teachers feel supported and they see that the professionals are treating them like professionals and can help them in a way without belittling them or making them feel like they're not doing the right thing, that they're making mistakes. When you have that, it's a whole other ballgame. Regina, let's talk with you for a minute. Catapult Learning recently shared data showing that their students particularly outperformed peers nationwide in both math and reading, especially among the bottom 20% of achievers. What do you think are the key factors in your program that drive such gains for students who are either the furthest behind or maybe that they're consistently struggling along the way and can't get to that point?
Yeah, great question. So it is part of the Catapult model. And to give you an idea that our company was founded in 1976 by Stephen Freeman, who still sits on our board today. And part of the vision was about supporting non-public schools for intervention services. And so it really started in that particular area in Philadelphia many years ago, moved into Sylvan Learning Center. So you're familiar with that. Right. And then Catapult became the in-school service model of Sylvan Learning Centers. So we have this legacy of close to 50 years where we have a model that we know is proven with our Achieve Literacy curriculum and our Achieve Math curriculum. It's designed specifically for intervention. So our tutors can come in and, again, not replace what is already in place by the school district or their curriculum, but enhance that. And then our model allows the teachers to teach while our team takes over as far as doing the heavy lifting of training, hiring, and managing the tutors. So it's a really effective model as far as like the integration of services, but allowing you to continue to do the work that you need to do. So because of that legacy, we've got a proven model that helps with raising, as you mentioned, scores with students or their performance going up from one grade level to maybe 1.5 grade levels after 12 weeks of instruction. But it goes back to that curriculum, and it goes back to the modeling and support.
You know what's interesting? You said 50 years, right? Before AI, before computers, the internet. So when you talk about proven, it's proven. You could do it without the technology. I know we're going to get into AI and some of the technological aspects and enhancements that can be used today, but that's an impressive run for 50 years.
Yeah, but the one that we're very proud of, and again, it's across the country too. So we've done a great deal of work. The services that we've delivered in New York City has been impactful, but also in New England, where we're the approved provider on the DESE contract in Massachusetts and Connecticut, Rhode Island as a professional development provider, and CTLE approved in New York State.
You know, if you could do it in New York City, right? Yeah, you could do it in
Can
New York
make it
City.
there.
There it is. You can make it there. You can make it anywhere. It's true. I
Yeah.
love, there's something that you guys do called optimal dosage. I really love that phrase. I think it has such weight to it and meaning behind it. So how do you approach determining the optimal quote unquote dosage for different schools, different students, different scenarios? How does that all work, even in on a differentiated level?
The research based, so it is the same amount of dosage that ideally, if it fits into the school schedule, we'll do either 3 40-minute sessions a week or 4 30-minute sessions a week. And according to NEA, that is the most effective methodology for better results in 12 weeks. So in high impact tutoring or high dosage, depending on the part of the country that you're in literacy is 12 times more effective than traditional tutoring. So a lot of the tutoring that happens in schools really is more of that traditional model. Ours is designed for that impact, and it's 18 times more effective with math. So that's really a powerful statement about how that frequency works. One of our customers in Connecticut said that not only did it improve scores, but it improved the behavior of the student and empowered them. So they were more confident in the classroom. They took risks in the classroom. So that's just the offshoot and the benefit of actually improving the testing and the scoring, but also to see that there's a behavioral change in confidence.
Right, that psychological uplifting feeling, right? When you know that you're not struggling anymore or you're starting to get it, that you're right, the confidence goes up. And when you talk about social emotional learning as such a huge thing in schools today, that I can see could have a direct positive effect on the kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you say like optimal dosage, for us, we know that we put a line in the sand of what that is, but for us, it's also a moving target because we invest a lot in our own research and evaluation. So we think about the ratio of impact per time. Because if we could make things predictable and say like, hey, we could deliver this impact for this amount of time, and obviously you want to work towards more efficiency, we're constantly trying to improve, right? And there's different avenues that impact or improve it. It could be teacher quality. It could be the curriculum that we use. It could be the environment of the schools that we partner with or help them to get to the most optimal environment possible to maximize what we're saying, and we're standing behind that, what we could deliver in schools. So I love the word like optimal like dosage because it is moving. And the goal for us to remain leaders in the space is to really focus on that impact per time, right? Because obviously you want to generate the most impact and in the least amount of time, especially if students are far behind where they need to be.
So then what do you think is one of those challenges then with that, especially with AI and technology and the level and the amount of technology that's available and the amount of technology that the kids are interacting with, and even the teachers for that matter on a given day? Because right, that we all think about tutoring and kids and uplifting and helping and all that stuff that comes along with it, right? But when you really boil it down, it's the teachers that are doing all that work. It's the teachers that will have to use the AI and use the technology so that the kids use it appropriately. So what kind of challenges do you see with that?
I think for a lot of folks, the biggest challenge is not to fight the inevitable, because I think there's this like feeling like it's either 100% human capital or there's this technology revolution that's coming around. And at least for me personally, how we've been managing the New York team is it's going to be a combination of like human capital, technology, a solution that gets us through this, because we have to be real. There's a lot of competing factors for students' time, teachers' time, and what have you. And when you look at it, like as long as these two ingredients are in the formula, reduce student to teacher ratio, right, in our tutoring model, right, and quality minutes, because sometimes people say, hey, we'll just do a tutoring program and we'll just throw a bunch of kids with extra time. Right. But
time doesn't always, right. It's not, sometimes it's not more that's going to actually do the trick. More sometimes
right. Is it a reduced student to teacher ratio?
Right.
And are the minutes that you're providing students, are they quality minutes? Mm-hmm. Right. And I wholeheartedly believe you cannot remove the human element of teaching, because even just by biology, like we learn best by interacting with other humans. So that's always going to be part of the formula. Now it's us figure out exactly what is the cadence, what is the format, what is the right interaction with the technology piece that supports both the teacher, the student, and then the combined dynamic of student and teacher together.
It's important. I mean, because if you really think about it, that's the engagement, right? The kids today, I always say it, I say this all the time, and even on the show, I've said it, it's like the kids have it's like a horse with blinders. They only see what's in front of them on that screen sometimes. You could do the biggest song and dance in the world, and sometimes if you don't have a big, interactive panel in front of you, they don't see it. And I think part of the problem and some of the challenge, even for the teachers, from elementary school all the way up and through, even through college, you could argue, if they don't have the technology component now embedded in those lessons, that's a huge problem, because the kids all, they're just not wired that way anymore, like you and I were when we went to school.
And you're potentially doing the children a disservice, because exposure to that technology, interacting with it, having a fluency with it, is going to be part of potentially the jobs, and most likely the jobs of the future. So you're almost putting them behind the 8 ball for almost the fears of the teacher, limiting the potential of the student.
Right. The balance, I think, sometimes is the hardest part for a teacher to wrap their minds around.
I think, part of the work that our coaches do, and I know Ellie has done a lot of work around this, is like being really thoughtful about the type of technology and AI that is used in a really nurturing way for the teacher to kind of gain the knowledge that they need, right? But also to access, okay, is this working for a student to move forward in their learning, or is this just getting them kind of addicted to the gamified part of it, right? And so I know a lot of developers these days are trying to have that sweet spot of productive struggle without it becoming kind of something that they're just trying to win a game at and not actually learn.
Right.
So
no, it's a great point. Even just the fact that prompting is such a big deal right these days. Like, how do you prompt a computer for artificial intelligence to help you out? Even if it's something in Canva or Adobe Express where you just want to prompt to create a picture. What does that picture in your mind look like? And how do you verbalize that and type it out so that you get what you were kind of envisioning in your head? And it's such a hard balance. And I think teachers are finding it very tricky now, especially with that tutoring, supportive aspect of it. It's not easy.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's easy. I mean, BB mentioned some of the work that we've been doing around this, like AI and literacy, helping instructional leaders and teachers understand how to use AI as a tool and not as a replacement. And if they don't embrace that, then we're going to wind up with a lot of young people coming out of school who are trying to replace their learning with AI tools, but they can be very powerful tools. And when calculators first came out, people were like, oh, like you're cheating, right? But it's a calculator. It's a tool.
Then Google came out and did the same thing.
Then Google came out and did. I remember when schools first were becoming like one-to-one laptop schools, and people were like in an uproar, right? Like, how dare you have these children use? And now it's like you can't find a school that doesn't, have technology embedded in its learning and its culture. And so I think the adults in the space are going to need to also, like you said, embrace what AI is going to mean. And it is definitely, I think, like Chester mentioned, a human capital. It's going to be a priority for human capital, because if adults don't embrace it and they get frustrated or they are very apprehensive about it, then the young people will wind up not having access in a way that is really meaningful to their learning.
Right. Some of the New York City districts are going to be rolling out some pilot programs in terms of how to use AI for the kids now. They're going to start that process. So, they're starting to see, as Chester mentioned a few minutes ago, about the future of work and what that might look like for kids. And the use of AI is may not be 100%, but it probably will be part of their job one day, somehow, some way. And they're going to start to filter that down to some of the elementary schools to start the process to show them what prompting looks like so that you get what you want out of it. And of course, that can help with tutoring as well, right? So it's all in the same basket now, and now we just have to figure out how to organize that basket. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at some of the interventions and services that Catapult can bring to the table. More with the New York City team from Catapult Learning, so stay with us. We'll be right back right after this. Attention educators, meet the Logitech Zone Learn, the classroom headset designed for learners and built for schools. Engineered for comfort and durability, the Zone Learn delivers crystal clear audio, helping students focus and fully engage during lessons, group projects, and online learning. Built to last, its modular design adapts to any classroom setting and ensures a reliable, distraction-free learning experience. With Zone Learn, your students can hear the difference, which helps boost learning. For more information, visit logitech.com/Zone Learn. Bullying affects every school, but together we can change the story. Box Out Bullying brings powerful bullying prevention education to life through engaging interactive theater that gets students thinking, participating, and learning in meaningful ways. Through dynamic school assemblies, classroom workshops, and training for educators and families, Box Out Bullying equips entire school communities with the tools to build empathy, confidence, and respect. Whether in person or online, these high-energy programs inspire students to be upstanders, not bystanders, and help create safer, more inclusive learning environments. Make your school a place where every student feels seen, supported, and valued. Box Out Bullying. Empower, include, respect. For more, visit boxoutbullying.com today. Welcome back to Classroom Dynamics. We are here today talking with the team from Catapult Learning, the New York City team from Catapult Learning. And I just want to go back to that AI conversation we were just having. So you recently did a Bringing AI to Literacy and Learning conference with CSA. Regina, just explain to people what that CSA conference is all about. And then I want to have Ali give us a little insight into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually Catapult Learning's first time as a sponsor and a presenting sponsor. And it's the Council of Supervisors and Administrators in New York City. So it's one of their most significant, well-attended, close to 2,000 administrators. We had a really nice representation in Ali's session, very engaging. And I think, Ali could speak to it because, there were great questions that came up from those that, again, they wanted to learn more about something that can be very intimidating. And so it's like demystifying AI in the classroom. So I'll turn it over to Ali to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah. Thanks, Regina. I think we really tried to focus on helping school leaders and school teams understand how to successfully implement AI to support their literacy initiatives, because we find that a lot of schools will have a literacy. So it could be any goal, right? But they will establish or find AI tools to support with getting to that goal. And I think that sometimes they may have some pieces that they don't necessarily think about. And so we were trying to help them think about how do you create a full picture towards implementation.
Especially because they're not in the classroom, some of them.
Right.
They're not there anymore.
That's
right?
What
it is.
So we talked about making sure that they had clear literacy goals, but making sure their efforts were aligned. Like a lot of schools will say, hey, let's get the tech person to do this. And it has to be a full-on team effort. It can't just be one person in the space. We talked a lot about data and privacy, about ensuring that all the large humans in the space had professional learning opportunities, and that there was equitable access, right? Like not getting tools that all students couldn't use, and definitely establishing some measurable outcomes. And the folks in this session loved it because they felt like we were having real conversation. I think folks walked away, right, Regina, like this is the first session we've been in. We didn't feel like somebody was trying to sell us something. They were really trying to help us. And so it just felt really good to have that conversation with those schools teams.
Again, the support, right? When you get legitimate support, you're going to get that buy-in a lot quicker than you would have if you were trying to sell a product. It's true. So let's go into some of those significant positive impacts and really like the support, right? So a Johns Hopkins study recently found that Catapult's wraparound services had statistically significant positive impact on middle school math achievement. We kind of touched upon this earlier. Can you walk us through what those wraparound services mean in your model and how to integrate academic instruction, mental health supports, and even professional development to produce those results?
Yeah, so to produce the results, we have to find a partner who is willing to really play ball with us, because the wraparound service, it's a commitment, right? Because going into it, a school has to be ready and prepared to redefine the new normal, because we are basically interjecting or inserting, almost redoing their DNA, right? With what they're using their resources, how they're using the resources, what resources they're using, the human capital that's like flowing through the school. So in terms of services, we have our direct instructional services, whether it's small group instruction or tutoring. We have professional development, workshops, and one-to-one teacher coaching. We have parental workshops, engaging the community, and school leadership support, right? So all of those in unison is a big investment of time and resource for a school to commit to. And we're happy and we were confident we were going to get to the results that we got. But underlying a lot of it is, especially for this education space, everyone kind of knows who Bloom is, right? Bloom taxonomy, you've kind of heard about that, but
Yes.
not many people have heard of Bloom's two sigma problem. Is anyone familiar with Bloom's two sigma problem?
I've definitely not heard of it. So I'm sure
All right,
a lot of teachers have not heard of that one.
So basically, you have a normal distribution curve, right? And everyone hopefully knows what it looks like, right? It's very symmetrical with the mean straight in the middle. And a normal distribution curve is normally used to measure random events.
Right.
Yet it is also used to quantify and organize student results. So Bloom was saying, like, why is a tool used to measure randomized events being applied to education? Is teaching and learning a random event? Why can't 99% of the data fall under a skewed bell curve? Why does it have to be at the 50% point? So basically, he pulled a lot of research, and it was centered around reducing the student to teacher ratio, which mirrors a lot like our high impact tutoring model. And he basically applied one-on-one tutoring with master teachers for over like 2,000 students, right? With the data was pulling in. And basically the data showed like, yep, he was able to not just shift the bell curve to the 99 percentile, but he compressed it where that's where the majority of the data lived. Now, here's the problem, right? It is not economically feasible or sustainable to provide one-on-one tutoring with a master teacher for every student. But that's not what Bloom was trying to solve. He was just trying to prove that's possible and that learning is not a randomized event. So of all the inputs that Catapult has access to under our portfolio, what is our version of the two sigma solution? So maybe part of it is one-on-one tutoring. Maybe part of it is impacting teachers. Some of it is curriculum. Each component that we add is part of that two sigma delta to get the standard deviation. I'm starting to get nerdy, right? From being at the 50% mark all the way to the 99% mark. And now how we're talking about optimal dosage, like this is what goes into our research and evaluation of improvement, right? Because we want to be able to walk the walk. Because Ali was talking about schools and school leaders feeling like someone's not trying to sell us something. We're not trying to sell you anything. You know what needs to happen. We're just trying to help you see exactly how you could do it. And we don't have a one size fits all model, right? We try to help schools find their own solution to Bloom's two sigma problem, right? Because it's going to look different in different spots. And that's the beauty of like working at Catapult. We work with district schools, charter schools, religious schools, independent schools. So we can't have one size fits all. We get booted out. Like we have to stay on our toes and be flexible and mindful to the sensitivities of each of our school clients. So
it's
that's
not
kind
reality,
of
right? It's not reality.
Right, it's a reality. And that's the crux around our wraparound services. Like what portion of each of the services that we provide, how much can it contribute to shifting that bell curve and compressing it? So yeah, I hope that answers that part.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when you guys go into a school for the first time, what are let's just do like the top like 3 things you're looking for just off the bat to kind of give you an idea. How do you gauge that? What are some of the things you look for?
Yeah, I can jump in there. I think there's many layers to it, but whenever we're walking into a school, it's always what's going to be the highest leverage, right? So immediately you're trying to see, what's the actual overall environment? What is the ratio of student to teacher talk? What are, how are the hallways? How are adults communicating with one another? How are they communicating with themselves? And then you like tiptoe into the classroom and then you really get into the meat and potatoes, right? You're like, okay, great. What are the structures? What are the routines? How are students engaging? What type of work are they producing? Whenever we go into what we call our needs assessment, that's what we're moving through. We want to see, okay, ultimately, like it's great if I think you mentioned before, like you can sing and you can dance, but ultimately it's about the students and the students' outcomes and what they're able to produce. So there are some things, of course, structurally and environmentally we're looking at, but we're always going to zoom into, okay, great. What are the adults saying and doing? And then what are the students producing? Because at the end of the day, like that's what's most important. What are the students able to articulate? What are they able to produce? What's connecting with them? And then where are those gaps?
Yeah, I think it's important for teachers. You hit on so many amazing things there to have that right introspective self-feedback, right? That looking at yourself sometimes, you might be a teacher who's been teaching for 25 years and you're set in your ways. You're not ready to incorporate some AI or technology. You might be a new teacher for the very first time right out of college, and you're saying, I have all these great tools in front of me. Which one do I pick? Right. So I think there's that balance. So if how do teachers then, what's something a teacher can look at, of their within looking at themselves in their own classroom, forget about the rest of the school for a moment, just their own little world that they're in for a few hours a day with those kids. What's something they can grasp onto and really say, I have to look at that to start?
If I were to just articulate one thing, right, it would definitely be, what are the students producing, right? When you're there and you're talking, one, like, what is your ratio? Are you asking open-ended questions so they can just say yes or no? Or are you pushing the higher order thinking questions, therefore pushing them to really articulate things? So whenever I'm in a space, I love to see teachers do their thing and jam, and my eyes are always going to go to the students. So when I think about what the teachers need to articulate, it's like, okay, are you identifying, are you planning your lessons? Are you identifying what the misconceptions are going to be? Because whenever you're in that space and like, I know my students, therefore I know what they're going to produce and I know how to move them along. Like, I don't know. And I'll key in some other folks on the call, but to me, that's what I'm always thinking. And I think if teachers are moving in that same lens of like, what are my students saying and what are my students producing, very quickly you're going to close gaps.
So when you say producing, it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical something that's being produced, whether it's a writing piece or a math problem. It could actually be verbally. It could be something that's social, emotional, something that ties in together with just the everyday routine.
Correct. So if we're working, we think in every age, right? If you're asking questions, are students being able to articulate not only the answers and how to, answer a question correctly, but can they also identify like where in the text, where in the text does that live? We do move off of thoughts and opinions. And at the same time, that's not what I'm asking you, right? When I'm asking you about the character change in this story, I don't want you to say, Miss Pugh, I think this happens. I want you to be able to articulate like, in the text, in chapter 2, we saw the character go from this to this, and this shows me, the character change, or, whatever the question is. But when they're able to really articulate their learning and or write it down, whichever they're producing, it just means a lot. It means that the things that you're, they're catching the things that you're throwing, for lack of better words.
I love that for a couple of reasons. The main reason I love that is because I think, I'm not an administrator. I do look at things through an administrative lens sometimes, but I think sometimes when you get that guest in the room, and it doesn't have to be an administrator, it could be just, the superintendent, it could be, a parent, it's that guest in the room. I don't think they realize sometimes that those kind of conversations and those kind of ideas sometimes mean more than that physical produced piece of whatever it is you're working on, right? I think sometimes they overlook that. And I love that higher order thinking because, you don't want to ask those questions where it's a yes or no or a maybe or I think so or it could be. I love when kids and teachers for that matter can articulate that and explain their thinking. I love that. I love those higher order thinking questions that come into play sometimes.
I mean, I
think Lanisha's team does some great work too, and just with again the embedded coaching model. So again, it's working with the administrator will come to us and say, I need support with our great team leaders, and so her team will go in and work side by side with the great team leaders to model the best practices. And so I think what you've done too, and Lanisha too, is even recommended reading, how to start some great habits and time management. So some of the things that you may have gotten in school or maybe not, she brings into the classroom, not into the classroom, but into the leadership team to actually help them replicate those great practices that then again translate to the teachers and then further on to the students. But I think that's one of our roles too, is having that conversation with the administrator that says, I see a need here, but I can't be everywhere. And like you said, the person from the outside comes in It's a different relationship, right? They can have transparent conversations and move the needle forward. And we have some great partnerships in the DOE and also in charter school space as well as the private school space.
What do you do with schools, not even just the kids, but with the schools as a whole that are already, they're up there. They're like the New York Yankees of a school. What do you do with those kind of schools that are trying so hard to move forward and get even better? But it's, it's the harder when you're already up there. Sometimes it's harder to get better. It takes a lot more work to get better once you're already there. So you have struggling schools. You have schools that are kind of getting their footing and they're moving. But what do you do for that? Almost like that, kid in the class that needs that enrichment. What do you do for that school that really needs that extra little push just to make them a little bit better?
Helps it when the administrator has a handle on it and identifies it. And we, one of our schools up in Massachusetts, it's a top-notch school district. Everything else is flying high. And then they just have a small subset of students that they need support with. So it's interesting, even in the best, affluent district, they still have 30 students who need the services of Catapult for intervention services. So if the administrator recognizes it, we can go in. And then, of course, in the case where everything's flying high, we have a breadth of professional development, workshops, and services. So if it's not embedded coaching, we can actually come in and do, you've been in the classroom long enough, so you know those days when it hasn't been the most effective professional development. You go like, okay, I should be getting my classroom ready. So we don't want teachers to feel like that. So we try to bring in something that's very actionable.
I also just think when you're dealing with top performing schools, typically there's a leader who is really visionary and really trust their staff. And so I think part of that is like really truly understanding, like, where do we want to dream? Where do we want to innovate? Where do we really want to climb to? And are there studies with Johns Hopkins or collaborations that we can be a part of and use Catapult as a partner in that so that we can do this kind of PLC deeper work together, which can be really exciting. You know what I mean? I think all schools are yearning for that. I was very fortunate to come from a school with an exceptional leader who was always challenging us. Like, you come and tell me what you need, right? But that leader was coached by a fabulous coach on leadership development. Like, if you come in thinking you're going to tell everyone what to do and that they're all going to fall in line, right? It takes a really skilled leader to grow a school to be a top performing school, but to maintain it. Right.
No, fantastic point. And I think that's so well said, because you do get those situations where you really do have to trust your staff, and you have to give them the freedom sometimes to try something new, because they, like you said, they're yearning for that. They're thirsty for trying something new to get better, and I think a lot of schools, no matter where you fall on the level of where you are in terms of success, you always are trying to get better. I mean, I don't think I've ever met a teacher that wasn't trying to get better as they were going through the school days, through the school year, or even their career, right? Well, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap things up with the New York City team from Catapult Learning. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Looking to spark excitement in your classroom and save time? Head over to Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers. From engaging lesson plans to creative lap books and test prep tools, these resources are designed to inspire learning and take the planning stress off your plate. Highly Motivated, motivating teaching resources that engage and inspire. For more, search Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers today.
Welcome back to Classroom Dynamics. We are talking with the Catapult team from New York City. So I have one last question for you guys as a team. Looking back at all the students in the schools that Catapult Learning has supported, what story or success has inspired you the most? What message would you share with educational leaders about just like the power of high quality, targeted learning interventions? What's something that you can share with them that would give them that inspirational force to push forward?
So a few years ago, I was supporting our yeshiva community with our senior director of academics, Catherine Malitsky. And she and I were trying to get the community, all of these schools, over 70 schools we were working in, to get assessments completed so we could get data to kind of really examine what we were doing. And in the lower grades, we use an assessment called DIBELS, which helps with fluency, letter recognition, letter sounds. And just doing that alone was a feat, just completing it, right? And here we are now 4 years later, And you can see the growth that happened in those years of those younger students with those early literacy skills, and to see the data improving in those grades now that they're a little older was just extraordinary, right? And kind of once the teachers understood the purpose and the why behind what they were doing, they were in and they were committed to doing it. And the growth that was seen from those DIBELS assessments, and then really being able to itemize and target in our small group literacy instruction, to really understand like why the whisper reading is really important, or to identify what's holding a child back in that one thing. The data was the bridge for those teachers to be able to move their instruction forward. And it was just really exciting to be a part of. And obviously getting to partner with Catherine was a fabulous thing. It was the highlight of what we were able to do for me.
Talk about the proverbial planting, sowing the seeds, right? And planting those seeds down and seeing that happen over the years. Yeah, it's great.
I think that's where I see Catapult Learning across the country, is that it's a district partnership. So we really see like how we can evolve and work together. And I think that's a good example, Bibi, like that legacy of 4 years. And then, we have the 50 years. But there are districts that turn to us and say, can you help me with this? And so because we've worked in other areas, and because of the wraparound services, we have a lot of flexibility. But I think that's where that loyalty and that partnership, they really don't see us as a vendor so much as a partner in education and teacher support and empowerment and student improving student outcome.
What a great conversation today. I mean, I think, sometimes you hit the nail on the head before. You said sometimes you go to professional development and you wonder why you're sitting there. I've been in professional development and I'll say to myself, why am I here? This is a huge waste of time. We've all said it. You can't have a home run hitting professional development session every single time, when you're doing one a week or two every month or whatever. It's hard to keep that level up. But I think the takeaway from today is just a lot of great ideas and just theories as to how, we could actually get better and then actually do what you guys do and put it into practice and make things better in a classroom. And I think sometimes, teachers, there's so many things that happen during the course of the day. I think 99% of the day flies by them in front of them and they don't even realize, some of the intricacies that they could look at to make that class and those students better. So, what a great conversation. So I really want to thank you guys for some of your amazing insight into Catapult Learning and into a classroom, because that's what it all comes down to. Before we go, Regina, just tell everyone where they can go to find out more about Catapult Learning and any of your socials that they can look up and start following you guys on.
Yeah, so catapultlearning.com is our main site. We do have local offices. We're right on Broadway in New York City and in the Wall Street area. So we are a local company and supported in position for hosting events too. We do a lot of professional development on site too. So that's something that we just started doing. So go to our website. We're on LinkedIn, the standard ones. I don't know of any other ones, but I would say just go to our website, submit a form, or anyone can always reach out to me or anyone on the team if they're interested in continuing the conversation.
Excellent. Well, listen, for those of you who have been listening today, thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you share what you've learned or any takeaways or reflections that you've had, and tag us on X at Class Dynamics or Instagram at Classroom Dynamics Podcast. You can also find all of our links, including information about some of our sponsors, including Catapult, on Linktree. Our Linktree is at Classroom Dynamics, and we always look forward to hearing your thoughts on our episodes and sharing the different ways in which you're using what you've learned. You can also help support Classroom Dynamics with as little as $3 a month at classroomdynamicspodcast.buzzsprout.com. Once again, I'd like to thank this amazing team from New York City from Catapult Learning for joining us today on Classroom Dynamics. Thanks for being with us today and sharing some amazing insight. Appreciate the time and all that you brought to the table today. So thank you. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Classroom Dynamics. I hope today's conversation sparked something meaningful for you, maybe a new idea, a fresh perspective, or just a little boost of motivation to take back to your classroom. Remember, it's never too late to strengthen your craft, and if there's ever a moment to re-energize your work, why not make it today? I'm Adam Todd, and you've been listening to Classroom Dynamics, a teacher podcast. Follow us on X at Class Dynamics and on Instagram at Classroom Dynamics Podcast. If you haven't already, go to your favorite podcast platform platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'll be back soon with more captivating conversations, inspiring stories, and strategies that you can implement into your everyday routines. Until then, keep that spark alive and never underestimate the incredible impact you have as an educator. You're more powerful and inspirational than you think. Did you miss our episode with 11-year-old photographer Tyler Devane? If so, join us as we sit down with this inspiring youngster whose stunning bird photos have gained global attention. Join us as we explore creativity, mindfulness, and student voice, and the magic that happens when curiosity meets nature.
Most birds have what's called an anisodactyl toe arrangement, which is when they have 3 toes forward and 1 back. But ospreys, they have a flexible outer toe that rotates backwards, and it makes it a zygodactyl grip, which is 2 toes forward and 2 back.
I don't even think I could pronounce that word. Wait, what was that again?